You know, when you hear the term mine rehabilitation, you probably picture a scarred landscape finally turning green again, right? But behind that simple idea, there's a really complex story, one that involves deep ecological science, corporate culture, and way too often, a broken promise. So what's really going on beneath the surface? Let's dig in.
So let's just start with this question right here. I want you to really think about it. What does rehabilitated mine land actually look like in your head? Is it a healthy, thriving forest? Is it a farm? Or is it something else? Well, the answer, unfortunately, is often not what we'd hope for at all.
Because this is the harsh reality. Field observations from over the decades show that a lot of these so-called rehabilitated sites, they're not healthy. We're talking about land that's eroding away, with huge gullies forming. The soil has no nutrients left, and the plants that are there are barely hanging on. Even worse, the microbial life in the soil, the stuff that makes it alive, is basically gone. Instead, you get invasive plants taking over, and the whole area just kicks up dust and pollutes the air. This isn't recovery. It's just a different kind of wasteland. And all of this brings us to the heart of the problem, what we're calling the broken promise. See, there's this massive gap between what real rehabilitation should be and what it often turns out to be. It's the critical difference between just, throwing some grass seed down and actually rebuilding a living, breathing ecosystem from scratch. The experts in our source materials say we need to totally shift our thinking to something they call ecological reconstruction. Now, this isn't just about making the land look pretty. It's about rebuilding its fundamental structure and function, everything that makes it work, so it can actually sustain itself for the long haul. This is true rehabilitation.
So why do we keep getting it so wrong? Well, a lot of it comes down to culture and some really flawed ideas. You hear these things on site all the time. Oh, just level it out. Nature will do the rest. Or, rehab, that's just landscaping, planting some grass. My favorite is, we'll have a walk-away solution in 2 years. These ideas treat an incredibly complex ecological challenge like it's a simple weekend project. And those misconceptions, they create these deep systemic flaws, which brings us to our next section, the real cost of cheap. This is where we see how the whole system is set up to undermine even the best intentions, turning a promise to heal the land into a race to the bottom on price.
This quote right here, from our source material, it just cuts right to the heart of it. From a purely financial point of view inside a company, rehabilitation isn't seen as an investment in the future. It's seen as this annoying expense that has to be minimized because it gets in the way of profit margins.
And this whole mindset is baked into what the authors call the net present value culture. Now here's how that works. The financial models are designed to make money today seem way more valuable than money spent way off in the future. So that big, expensive rehabilitation project that needs to happen in 20 years, on a spreadsheet today, that cost gets mathematically shrunk down until it looks tiny, insignificant. This systematically starves the project of the funds it needs from day one, and it just kicks a massive environmental and financial problem down the road.
And here's how that culture plays out in the real world. It's like a tale of two contractors. The standard process, it almost always picks the lowest bidder, right? Their focus is just on saving money right now. And the result is always the same: shoddy work, delays, and an ecological failure that ends up needing expensive rework. The alternative is to find a professional partner, someone focused on long-term value, who plans ahead and brings in experts. And the result there? You get something sustainable, and you actually reduce the company's liability in the long run.
Okay, so if the old model is clearly broken, what's the solution? Well, it takes a really fundamental shift in philosophy. We have to move away from being short-term fixers and start becoming long-term custodians of the land.
The source material proposes this really powerful alternative, the land custodianship model. This is not a one-and-done job. It's a long-term professional commitment. The key word here is stewardship. It's about actively caring for the land over decades, making sure it actually recovers and becomes a valuable asset again, not a forgotten liability.
Now this might sound a little abstract, but it actually breaks down into a really concrete plan. Phase 1, the first 5 years or so, that's initiation. You're just focused on getting the basic soil and ecological building blocks right. Then you move into maintenance for the next 5 to 10 years. Here you're actively managing the site, helping it stabilize. Only after a decade or more can you even think about relinquishment, where the land is finally ready to sustain itself.
And when you do it this way, the benefits are just so clear. This model forces everyone to think long-term. It gets the local community involved, and, most importantly, it's focused on restoring the entire ecosystem, not just making it look green. And guess what? This approach actually lowers those long-term financial risks and gets rid of the need for all that expensive rework we were just talking about.
So this new philosophy is amazing, but to actually make it happen, you've got to pair it with the right tools. A long-term vision needs long-term solutions. And luckily, we actually have incredible technologies that can help us heal the land from the ground up, literally.
Okay, check this out. This visual shows two totally different ways to rebuild the ground itself. Over on the right, that's the old way, chemical stabilization. You're basically just dumping in lime or cement to create a hard, concrete-like base. But now, look to the left. This is geosynthetic reinforcement, and it's so much smarter. Instead of chemicals, you lay down these specially engineered fabrics right into the soil layers. They act like a skeleton inside the dirt, spreading out weight and physically holding everything together. It's stronger, it's more flexible, and it doesn't have the huge carbon footprint of cement.
The advantage here is just huge. Geosynthetics give the soil physical strength from the inside out, helping it resist erosion and stop it from settling. It's just a much more elegant and sustainable solution that works with the soil's natural properties, instead of just paving over the problem with chemicals.
And look, this isn't just some theory. This is a proven solution being used all over the world. Whether it's stabilizing highways on tricky clay soil in India, building up embankments in the US, or protecting the entire coast in the Netherlands, these materials have shown clear, measurable benefits, and they often come with significant cost savings too.
And that brings us to the main takeaway from all of this. The technology exists. The ecological knowledge is there. The biggest hurdles we face in actually healing these landscapes, they aren't technical. They are the cultural baggage, the broken financial models, and the flawed procedures that put short-term costs ahead of long-term health.
So the question this leaves us with is pretty simple. Are we going to keep just landscaping the wound, making it look okay on the surface, while the real damage is still there underneath? Or are we finally going to make the big shifts in our thinking, our finances, and our actions to truly finally start to heal the land?